looking to connect a region of over 600 mil bridges between our lands.
Hello and welcome to ASEAN in Focus. I'm Maricar Velasco.
Delivering to you the latest news in and around the ASEAN region, I'm Mariel Soriano.
On today's headlines, hundreds dead after earthquake tsunami hit the Indonesian island of Sulawesi. Authorities expect the toll to rise sharply as news arrive from remote areas.
The Department of Agriculture, or DA, and National Food Authority, or NFA, are set to form and deploy a technical team to inspect warehouses in countries from where the government and private rice traders import rice.
And some highlights at the ASEAN Agricultural Summit. Hundreds are dead after earthquake tsunami hit the Indonesian island of Sulawesi. Authorities expect the toll to rise sharply as news arrive from remote areas. Details from our EBC Indonesian correspondent Alfredo Ton. Alfredo?
On the evening of September 28th, an earthquake with a magnitude of 7.4 on the Richter scale struck the city of Palu and Donggala Regency in the Sulawesi Island in eastern Indonesia, which then triggered a 1.5-meter tsunami. The initially reported number of 384 lives lost rose to reported 832 lives claimed thus far. This is according to the report made by Mr. Sotopo Purwonugroho, the head of the Central Data and Information and Human Resources of the Indonesian National Board of Disaster Management during a press conference held in Jakarta on September 30, 2018. The said number is expected to rise as the current number was only taken from the areas where there is available access to communication. Reports from other affected areas like Donggala, Sigi, and Parigi are yet to be received. In the light of this recent earthquake that struck Sulawesi, the Meteorological, Climatological, and Geophysical Agency has asked Jakarta residents to prepare to mitigate disaster from a possible earthquake with a magnitude of 8.7. However, they have asked residents not to panic because the aforementioned threat is just a scientific prediction. In anticipation, residents have been asked not to panic as it is not possible to predict when it may occur. It is, however, suggested for all residents to be prepared and cautious in making sure that buildings and establishments are strong and can withstand earthquakes of such magnitude. According to the Chief Public Relations Officer of the Meteorological, Climatological, and Geophysical Agency, Mr. Haritirto Jatmiko, people must also be educated on how to mitigate such disasters. From Jakarta, Indonesia, this is Alfredo Torno III reporting for Eagle Broadcasting Corporation.
A Frenchman with nearly 4 kilograms or 8.8 pounds of drugs has been arrested by Indonesian police, authorities said Monday, in a country with some of the world's toughest narcotic sentences, including the death penalty. Police said Felix Dorfin, 34 years old, was carrying a false bottom suitcase filled with bags of cocaine, ecstasy, and amphetamines when he was nabbed on September 21 at the airport on the holiday island of Lombok next to Bali. His arrest comes 2 months after another Frenchman, Michael Blanc, left Indonesia following an 18-year jail term and several years parole for trying to smuggle drugs into Bali. He had been arrested the day after Christmas in 1999 at the tropical island's airport with 3.8 kilograms of hashish hidden inside scuba diving canisters. He narrowly escaped the death penalty, which has been handed to some other foreign drug traffickers in Indonesia, including 2 members of the notorious Bali Nine who were executed in 2015.
I'm here in Cairo, Egypt at the famous pyramids of Giza. Stay tuned to watch Digital Nest every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Reporting from EBC Egypt Bureau, I'm Zara Angeles Valdez, and I am one with Twinlight.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave some love by giving it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe here at ABC Digital Nest so you don't miss any of our upcoming features.
Welcome back. On its second run, the ASEAN Agricultural Summit 2018 is the next step in bringing together various stakeholders of the diverse agriculture ecosystem at a summit that presented ongoing developments in agricultural enterprises. While ASEAN is considered as one of the most productive agricultural baskets in the world and a significant provider of jobs and employment, especially in developing members of ASEAN, this sector is still plagued by poverty in the region. Mr. Joey Concepcion, chairman of ASEAN BAC Philippines, in his remarks said that one of the most challenging jobs today is the agricultural sector. Let's listen in.
To move up. One would wonder, how do we balance the farmer and the consumer? The most challenging job today is actually to be the agriculture secretary. If prices are high, definitely it benefits the farmers at the expense of the consumers. And of course, if prices are low, it benefits the consumers. Again, how to achieve that balance is the biggest challenge. We all share that same issue of poverty, maybe except for Brunei. My good friend here, Robert Yap, Singapore, you don't have the same problem we have here. But the CMLV countries and the Philippines face that situation. And again, the source really is, how do we make this country and the other countries facing this challenge more inclusive? Many of our mentors in the advocacy of Go Negosyo, trying to spur really helping our farmers. There are many models out there that have maybe proven some success, but determining the right model that would allow greater inclusivity and really propel the productivity in agriculture to move up is what we want to achieve.
He said the summit's objectives are to focus on champions and emerging icons of technology and innovation, as well as to reflect on the power of the 3 M's to create prosperity for everyone in the agri-sector industry. He also said the agribusiness is the game changer and solution for poverty. He also recommended that the private sector's involvement in the best way to help solve the problems in the agri-sector in the Philippines. Again, let's listen in.
In the Philippines and in ASEAN, which we launched last year, the Philippines hosted, is how do we create prosperity for everyone, for every Filipino, for every ASEAN citizen. Prosperity cannot only be for the few. And focused on the sector that is the most challenging is the agri-sector. And basically, focusing on 3 M's. Mentorship, money, and market. This is the area that we have to focus. Providing the best mentors out there to guide cooperatives. Again, agri is really the game changer. It is the solution to the biggest problem in this country, poverty. Should we allow importation of rice and sugar to force farmers to be more competitive? Should we have the NFA and the SRA involved in this balance of consumer and producer? Again, it's proven that the private sector is the best in solving problems. And my recommendation is really to get greater private sector involvement in helping solve our agricultural problems, especially in the Philippines. I believe that the balance of self-sufficiency has to be achieved, but not to the extent of hurting our consumers.
He also said that maybe it's about time that the National Food Authority change direction and allow the private sector to import rice when the demand is there, at the same time protecting the farmers with the correct tariff to continue to grow.
Maybe it's about time that our own NFA changes its direction and really allow the private sector to import rice and sugar when the demand is there, but protecting our farmers with the correct tariff that will allow them to continue to grow and not to be the poorest entrepreneur out there. As we can see, with the external pressures and the fear of competition coming in, maybe our farmers will push more towards better technology and better seeds. We've seen that the use of hybrid seeds in rice definitely enhances the productivity per hectareage. So it is in this balance that I feel that we need to push forward. You are our mentors. And the ASEAN chairmen here, who are all present, agree to the fact that agriculture is really the way we can make our nation more inclusive. So again, I wish that one day we really will get our act and finally solve the biggest problem in this country and move forward to creating greater prosperity for everyone in the Philippines and ASEAN. Thank you.
Meanwhile, Dr. Robert Yap, chairman of the 2018 ASEAN Business Advisory Council, delivered a message on bridging the gap between smart cities and smart agriculture. He said agriculture needs to move with the speed of urbanization because ASEAN cities are fast transforming with better infrastructure and ICT. He said in bridging the gap between smart cities and smart agriculture, there are two important aspects that need to be considered. Let's take a listen.
Agriculture needs to move in tandem with the speed of urbanization and consumer demand in developing countries. With the advent of digitization, ASEAN cities are fast transforming with better infrastructure and increased application of ICT, information and communication technologies, which has improved the quality of life for the people and help cities manage assets and resources more efficiently. To bridge the gap between the rapidly developing smart cities and smart agriculture, I believe there are three important aspects that need to be taken into consideration. I think this Philippines is actually pretty savvy in terms of tech, new technologies, and how we are looking at companies, new tech, new startup, exploiting technology for many of the good things that we see today. So technology adoption is a critical aspect to enhance agriculture. Since the inception of smart technologies across multiple industry verticals, the growing demand for products has led the push to implement innovative solutions in the agriculture sector. New ways of farming, such as vertical farming and hydroponics, has emerged in recent years. On the other hand, farmers are also increasingly open to leveraging technology to enhance traditional farming, with the objective of reducing manual labor while augmenting the agricultural yield at the same time. This radically changes the way farm producers operate. So besides harnessing green technology, such as solar and weather technology, to power and promote environmentally friendly and sustainable farming activities, weather can be better monitored to manage farming conditions, thereby lessening the impact of adverse weather destroying precious farm produce with the appropriate measures. Technology like sensors. A lot of food produced today, unfortunately, I think there are huge wastages, not just in ASEAN but in the whole world. I think more than 30–40% of produce never reach the market, right, in terms of the ability to actually be food for us for consumption. At the same time, it also improved the quality of food that we have on our table because of the better monitoring systems that we will have. So technology is becoming a very important part, and in YCH Group, we are actually also developing blockchain, using blockchain technology to look at building solutions to track and trace, allowing our distributed ledger system to be able to be open to everyone. So you could see the kind of quality and the kind of authenticity of the food produced when you reach your table. With the aid of also proper technology, I think agriculture processes can become more efficient and cost-effective, which in turn result in increased output. So the increased volume of farm produce needs to be supported by an extensive supply chain. On the connectivity part of it, I think this is ASEAN legacy. We are also looking at how we can connect ASEAN. We can connect ASEAN with not just between ASEAN itself, but how do we connect ASEAN with China, for example, all right? So Donald Trump, is he a nuisance or is he a good fella? I think it's a question that everybody asks. In any kind of adversity or in any kind of a challenge, there are always opportunities, all right? So depend on who you look at and who you are and how you actually play in this game. There are a lot of challenges, but there are huge opportunities, especially for ASEAN, right? The way that you see supply chains are moving today, all right, because of the trade war between China and the US, a lot of the US produce that are produced in China are moving very quickly. Supply chain are moving very quickly into ASEAN. So how do we take advantage of that? I think this is an opportunity for ASEAN. This is ASEAN-backed legacy project, our 5th legacy project, what we call smart growth cities. The idea is to be able to implement what we call a modern supply chain solution to support consumption of cities. How do we support city to grow without growing pain? And this is something that's very important. With the growing middle class, I think more and more consumption is going to grow. And then how do we feed cities in a very efficient manner so that you do not have traffic congestion, you do not have pollution on the road, you do not have basically a very, very broken chain where food produce, hygiene, safety are being compromised. So this is very important for us to look at it. And ASEAN-backed has taken, collectively, all the 30 of us in ASEAN-backed Business Council, has taken this as a very important project that we think, or we feel that we want to push with all the leaders' endorsement so that cities can gradually grow with lesser growing pain. The last part I need to just, I'm so glad when Joey said that a lot of you who are actually students in the industry, in the agricultural sector, or coming into learning about agriculture, coming into the industry. I like also to give parallel to what I've done for my industry, all right, in Singapore and also in the region. Logistics is always taken as the worst, right, because you are moving boxes, driving forklift in warehouses over the shop, very difficult life, right? And we have actually managed to transform logistics from a very, very unwanted industry, unsexy, to actually very desirable and a very progressive industry. Right. In fact, in Singapore itself, logistics is taken care as one of the key transformation sector for the transformation of our economy. Right. We feel logistics is important in terms of looking at how we can support the growth of not just Singapore, but also ASEAN, but also the countries we are in, so that we can be plugged into the global value chain. So if you look at it, it's actually a horizontal. So how can we do the same thing in agriculture? This is about passion, about how we feel what is important, but as leaders, I think we need to be able to make the industry sexy.
Agriculture Secretary Manny Piñol said he would seek a ban on the importation of fancy varieties next year, now that the National Food Authority is under his supervision. Secretary Manuel Piñol also said the NFA Council approved the measure tightening the monitoring of imported rice and would ensure what enters the country is of good quality and free from infestation.
Which is what actually happened to our problem with rice. Now let me go back to the very basic issue. I'm sorry for the foreign delegates. I have to address this issue because I know many Filipinos are asking this question. Was there really a rice shortage? No, there was never a rice shortage. Because shortage would mean that you have the money but you can't buy any rice in the market. That's shortage. There was rice in the market, but the price was very high. And I could attribute that actually to a miscalculation in the importation of the country's grains agency, the National Food Authority. You know, while we take pride in the fact that last year we produced the highest grains production in the history of this country at 19.28 million metric tons of dry paddy rice. That was our highest ever since. The year before that, it was only 17.6 million metric tons. In spite of that, we are only at 93% of our self-sufficiency. So we need to import 7%. Now, when you import rice, you have to take into consideration the seasonality of the crop. You have to bring in rice at a time when the local farmers are not harvesting, because that is when the rice in the market would be needed. What happened was the NFA, the agency, and the council, which is supposed to be composed of 12 or 14 wise men, disagreed on the mode of importation, and the importation was delayed from Vietnam and China, or rather Thailand. So the NFA rice disappeared in the market. Speculators came in, jacked up the price of rice, the commercial rice, and it went haywire. Now, in order to address that, we have to import more so that we can stabilize the price in the market. The other problem there was that, I only learned about this 10 days ago, after the President turned over the NFA to my department. The NFA for some time actually was under the Office of the Cabinet Secretary, along with 3 other agencies, the Irrigation Administration, the Philippine Coconut Authority, and the Fertilizer and Pesticides Authority. 10 days ago, the President issued Executive Order number 62, returning 3 of the agencies to the DA. And right after it was turned over to my department, I went to the market, and I saw what was wrong with the importation program. You know, there are 3 kinds of rice, and our friends from Vietnam and Thailand will know this. You have the 25% broken, which is cheaper, of course, 15% broken, and 5% broken. 5% broken is considered first-class rice. You know, instead of importing an affordable rice, which is 25% broken, our importers imported 5% broken. And they were selling it at the market at about 50 pesos, 55 pesos, 58 pesos. So even if we imported 800,000 metric tons last year, it did not bring the prices down. In fact, it went, on the contrary, it brought up the price of rice in the market because it was being sold at 55. Sinasabi nila fancy rice daw, like jasmine rice, long grains, you know, all of this kind of pautot, so they priced it at 55, 58 pesos, to the point that even the local variety of rice was, trying to catch up with the price. So instead of bringing down the price of rice in the market, the importation program actually pushed the prices up. And so last Monday, before I left for the US, I convened the NFA Council for the first time as chairman of the council, and we made a policy. There will be no more importation. Sorry, my friends from Vietnam and Thailand, but we will not import your Class A rice anymore. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The Filipino farmers will produce the Class A rice. and we will import from you only 25% broken, which could be sold at as low as 38 pesos in the market. That's the only way to bring down the price. That's the only way to bring down the price.
And that is the latest news in the Southeast Asian nations. I'm Mariel Soriano.
Stay updated about the ASEAN region. I'm Maricar Velasco. And
We are one with 25.